Let's take a look at how we can construct ellipses in two-point perspective. So far we only covered one point in a vertical direction. And here I put down two photos of the same object. The right side, obviously, it feels more like two-point, and the left side feels more like a three-point perspective. And this will be a good study object to try to guess where, for example, minor and major axes and ellipses are. So let's backtrack first and let's create an ellipse. Let's say somewhere here. Okay, so we said that, for example, the distance, kind of like our diameter, is equal, if you think about it as the major axis. And then the shorter line is the minor axis. And the minor axis is kind of like the z line or z-axis through the cylinder. Okay, so understanding this, it's going to be very easy to actually sketch in, for example, here, the major axis, because currently this face is perpendicular to our eyes, and right at the center down, that's kind of like the minor axis. And we also say that, for example, between minor and major, there is a 90 degree. Okay. So let's go to this other bottle. So somewhere here probably might be the minor axis. Nope, that's too low. Yeah, kind of like this. And I know 90 degree is the major axis, so from this line down, kind of like maybe there might be the major axis. Let's take a look at this one here. So vertically, not vertically, vertically, the can actually foreshorten, so it's kind of like a three-point perspective. So in contrast to the right image, my major axis is not horizontal, it cannot be. But if I try to see where my minor axis is, kind of like this century, then I can guess how my major axis has to be positioned. If I continue this line, for example, up, so it's a little bit too far to the right, then, for example, I could easily kind of like sketch in where the ellipse might be. And if we hide now the cocants, you can really easily see the minor and the major axis a little bit better. This actually also points out one of the tendencies we have. For example, it's very easy for us to make a hand motion that is kind of like left and right, or for example, maybe up and down. But making an ellipse maybe good at an angle could maybe be a little bit more tricky. Plus, this actually really shows nicely how the ellipses have to be rotated, and that's one of the key elements very often students at the beginning don't realize, and then later they draw in a circle into a face which should be a rotated ellipse, and it doesn't work and I don't know what's wrong. So if, for example, I turn on my ellipse template, you see that I have to rotate my minor axis helper along actually the minor axis of my drawing, and then I can perfectly along this direction draw an ellipse slightly rotated. Now with the other example, let's say we do this with pen and paper. I'm going to make my drawing a little bit bigger, so I have a higher success rate of drawing it nice and even. Let's say here and here are my points. Maybe one there. So you see I'm making it easy for me rotate my page so the z-axis looks towards me, if you want to do that, and then goes over it and then put down an ellipse. Okay. So that's a little bit about how to use the minor major axis for rotating ellipses correctly. Let's try to apply this now to 45-45 proportional cube, 2-point perspective, and let's create an ellipse onto two sides so we can actually construct a proportional cylinder. Okay, so here I have my one face, but that was actually the wrong layer. So let's do this again, there and there. Okay. And let's do the same on the back, there and there, there and there. Perfect. Good. Let's maybe zoom to this level. So the next step now, what I have to do is, let's go back to the first one. I have to put in all my diagonals there. For example, do the same there. And the main reason why I created those diagonals is now if I take my pen and go from the right vanishing point and draw a line through those two faces, and you see actually that my minor axis is running exactly through where those two pairs of diagonals cut each other. If that's not the case, then one of your faces is distorted. At that point, stop and restart. Because if you don't fix it, that problem of inaccuracy will just only get bigger and bigger the more you continue drawing. Okay, so next step, what I have to do is find my verticals. So for example, they're up and down, up and down. And now obviously I need to find the midpoint from the vanishing point, coming a line through there. Oh, whoops, that was too high. So there. And let's do the same down here, there. Let's turn this one off and take a look at what we have. Now you see what we found out is the following. Midpoint and midpoint, midpoint and midpoint. Same here and there. So now the next tricky task is try to find out the 1/3 position on a diagonal. Try to use faces that are the least amount of distorted or foreshortened. And actually in that case I would use this face, because you see this area down here looks kind of distorted, so nah, don't really want to do it there. Maybe there. I think this might be maybe 1/3. Okay. So I'm going to create a new layer and show you a small trick. So from there I draw a straight line, not a crazy line. And you see actually how I projected the 1/3 point over to the front square. And then from there I can simply draw a line down and a line down, and where these two lines meet the blue lines, they actually have to touch each other again, and there you start seeing a little bit of stuff that doesn't look correct. That's also because this line was wrong. So this is a good example. When you draw small, mini details will later look like major flaws. That's why I'm stressing so much. Draw big, you do yourself a favor. There, let's go back, and there, and there. A little exercise of making a smaller rectangle on each face and then projecting the same proportion onto another face. If you actually look really closely, you can see that right here, for example, is another cube. See that? There. Okay, well, we don't need this, so let's undo it. And proof of concept. Let's see if all the stuff actually really worked. So let's go back to here, and I put down my ellipse tool. So we know the minor axis has to be aligned. So there it is. Then let's scale this one down till maybe it touches it correctly. And let's see, not yet 100%. And we just have to find the correct spot. There. And that looks pretty close. Okay. Maybe there. Okay, let's make a nice big ellipse. And there we actually can see that my 1/3 point is a tiny bit off. Okay. So let's go to the front, to here. Let's do the same. So I have to increase the size, obviously. Change the degree a little bit more there. There. Need to adjust this, unfortunately, a little bit. So this is actually right now not really good, that this point here is not really on this this z line or the minor axis. That shouldn't really be the case. And it's probably because this square gets distorted so much that actually, yeah, I have to trick here a little bit. Okay, so let's see how everything looks when we connect these lines. So here I'm drawing tangent lines. So with tangent, I mean you see this line is tangent to each ellipse. So then this way I can perfectly cap my cylinder, and yeah, there it is. There's the cylinder. Now if we turn everything off, what you notice is that this one looks more like a nice circle, and this is really strongly distorted, but also, again, you know, minor major axis. It is actually very rotated and different degrees. Okay. So that's a way how, for example, then towards a vanishing point you create a cylinder. So here I corrected my underlay a little bit. So you see that's my original 1/3 gas, but it needed to look more like this. And then on this layer now, freehand sketch, I will try to put in my ellipses. But before I do this, actually, I would like to include also my minor axis. That's really important for me to see where it is, because that gives my motion direction. And then I can rotate my page a little bit. Yep, so that motion will be good. Let's go to here and draw big. Will be easier. Nope, not line tool. Yep. Okay, so coming. Nice and smooth strokes. Shouldn't have consumed so much coffee this morning. I'm a little bit shaky. Let's do the same on the back. Ghosting and really thin pen pressure. Try to put these lines down. So having said that, actually maybe I should switch rather to that tool. Okay, ghost over. Because then if I do something wrong, it's not a big deal. Okay. And go ghost, and then at one point start drawing. Don't necessarily actually try to look right where your pen is, try to the next points. Interestingly, then your hand will hit it actually a lot more accurate. That's actually what I did in the last step, not in the first step. So let's do this one again. So try, for example, go down and then look to a point, and I'm always looking to the next points and not really looking where my pen is. And thanks to our amazing brain, I will adjust it for us. Same here. Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't look too shabby. Okay. Then let's put in our lines. Zip. And there should be a line. So now this is actually a good tip about how to connect lines better. So you do not want to start, for example, here and then go down and stop, because essentially what will happen is you draw something like this, line and line, start and stop. It looks terrible. What you want is maybe you come and then you go down into the line, or even best, you ghost an ellipse in, kind of like draw it this way, and then later we can erase those parts. So let's go back to our drawing. So I'm always going along this line, then I go straight down, one motion, and I go in. So there, and down and in. Okay. Let's go down to here, the opposite side. So I just try to get a feel for it. And then let's try it out and go in and stop. Okay, where are my layers? Why can't I actually not hide that part? Interesting. So why? What's this one? Okay, there. Let's do it that way. Yeah. So now obviously in my drawing up here I have a problem, so that's not a good transition. So there I could try to even this out a little bit more. So here it's remove this part and then blend it nicely. Same there. Same there. Okay, that's, again, this would be kind of like my underlay, and then at one point when I'm done by hand, then I would go ahead and say, let's see where I can fit something, and then put that part in. Let's go to here and see where this might be the part that can fit. There. Yeah, there. Let's take too high. There, now we can correct it. Okay, so that's it for how to construct ellipses, how to make use of minor and major axes, the process of prescribing parts, and then you can use it as an underlay later to make a better and cleaner drawing. Now actually also let's compare this with our first attempt. So there we see that a little bit of inaccuracies. My 1/3 positions were kind of wacky, and that doesn't look very good. It looks really wrong. And here the width of my ellipses and their rotation seems to be more the same. So it seems to be more harmonious. So this maybe is a good example to also show that using tools is not necessarily always a guarantee to be more accurate. You still have to understand what you have to do and establish the drawing accuracy and know when something simply looks wrong or, like in this case, looks right.